Hello, welcome to our review of tropisms and turgor pressure. So make sure you have your note packet ready to fill in as we go. First off, we need to make sure we understand a few important terms, including stimulus. So a stimulus is a detectable change in the internal or external environment of an organism. So the plural of that would be stimuli. And examples of stimuli, things that can change in the environment of an organism, might be levels of light, the amount of gravity, touch, water, chemicals, temperature, or sound. Make sure you pick 4 of those stimuli to record on your note sheet. And when there's a stimulus, there comes a response. So think of this as kind of like cause and effect. A response is any change an organism makes because of a change in the environment. Examples of these responses in a plant. When there's light, plants bend. When there's gravity, roots grow down. Touch responds to touch. And water, roots grow towards the water. Take a look at this picture. Which response is shown in the image above? Take a moment and answer. Internal versus external stimulus. So, internal stimulus comes from within or inside the organism. An example would be a plant wilting, absorbing water, and then becoming upright again. So, if you look at the little pictures, A shows my wilted plant. That's the stimulus. I give them water, that's another stimulus, and we would then get a nice upright plant. Now let's look at the external stimulus from outside the organism. Examples would be light, chemicals, gravity, sound, touch, temperature, water, or an electric field. So looking at these pictures, A and B, which one is an internal stimulus and which one is an external stimulus? Stop and answer the questions. All right, next page in our notes. Tropisms. Tropisms are the turning of all or part of an organism in a particular direction in response to an external stimulus. So, for examples of tropisms in plants, phototropism, that's light, geotropism, that's gravity, hydrotropism is water, and thigmotropism is responding to touch. Negative versus positive tropisms. This has to do with how the organism reacts. So, a positive tropism is when the organism moves toward the stimulus. For example, a plant grows toward a light source. Negative tropism, an organism moves away from the stimulus. An example would be a plant grows against gravity. So gravity is pulling down, the plant grows up, opposite direction. So would the roots of a plant be growing towards water be an example of positive or negative tropism? Take a moment, answer the question. Phototropism. So, this is when an organism responds to light as a stimulus. This is considered a positive tropism. It's going toward. In plants, a hormone called auxin plays a part in elongating, that means stretching the cells on the dark side of the plant, the side opposite the light. This causes the plant to bend in the direction of the light. Bending allows more cells, which conduct photosynthesis, to reach the light. Take a moment and answer the question. A photograph is the capturing of light. Phototropism is an organism responding to light. So what does the root word photo mean? Geotropism. Organisms respond to gravity as a stimulus. This is also sometimes called gravitropism. In plants, it causes the roots to go toward the Earth's center, so it makes it a positive tropism. And it causes the stem to grow upward, which is a negative tropism. So roots are growing towards the Earth's center, that's positive. Stem grows upward, that's negative. Hydrotropism. Organisms respond to water or moisture as a stimulus. If it's a positive tropism, it's moving towards the water. In a negative tropism, it's moving away from water. The plant is able to sense this over a short distance and send signals to elongate or stretch part of the root. And you can see that in the picture here. It's not as influential as geotropism. Thigmotropism. So we're on to the next page. Organisms respond to touch as a stimulus. A plant moves or changes its orientation, that's like its position, of growth as a reaction to touch. So, some examples the sweet pea, that's this top picture. Sweet pea wraps its tendrils around an object to grow. And then ivy, that's our bottom picture. The roots actually cling to the tree and grow right up the tree. Sometimes they grow up houses as well. Tropisms and Turgor pressure. So, Turgor pressure is related to water inside the cell. So, the pressure that water filled vacuoles exert on the cytoplasm and the elastic cell wall in a plant. This is considered an internal stimulus and response within the plant cell. So, we're going to need to remember these parts of a cell, right? Remember, this is the vacuole, this is the big bag of water inside the cell. The cell wall, right? All plants have a cell wall. And the cytoplasm is our jelly stuff that holds all of our cell organelles, right? We got to remember those parts. So let's take a look at these diagrams. This shows three different cells, plant cells, and think about what you see happening in each cell. So we have A, showing water leaving the cell. B, we see water coming into the cell and going out of the cell. And C, water is just pushing into the cell. And really look at the shape of the cells. So we're thinking about osmosis. This is the water moving in and out of a plant cell through the cell wall, right? So we have hypertonic. This is when water moves out of the cell and empties that vacuole. We have isotonic. This is the equal movement of water in and out of the cell. So it's getting balanced. And then hypotonic, water moves into the cell, fills the vacuole, and creates turgor pressure, right? Make sure you fill in your diagram the name of each picture in those boxes on top. So this last one, this shows turgid pressure. All right, last page of our notes. Let's focus on hypertonic first. So water moves out and the plant cells become more concave. That's this bent in. All right. This allows space between the cells. The spaces cause the plant to lose its rigidity and wilt. Take a moment and draw the cell wall and the vacuole and make sure you draw arrows to label your diagram. When you're done drawing, you're going to be answering questions. All right. Hypotonic. This is when water moves into the plant cells and the cells become rectangular shaped. This is what we think of with a normal plant cell. This takes up all the spaces between the cells and causes the plant to become rigid. Rigid means stiff. Take a moment, draw the hypotonic cell and vacuole, and make sure you draw your arrows to label. And then you're going to take a moment to answer the questions. All right. So, how does the water actually leave the plant? It leaves the same way that gases enter and exit the plant through the leaves. So, plants have pores or openings in their leaves called stomata. Oxygen and water exit the plant through the stomata. Guard cells control the opening and closing of the stomata. And water evaporating from a plant is called transpiration. All right, I need you to draw the open and closed stomata and make sure you label these two cells on either side of the opening. Those are my guard cells. So go ahead and stop, draw your cells, and make sure you label that these are guard cells. When you're done drawing, you're going to be answering another question.